This is nextgenweb.org, and we are continuing our coverage today in the Cannon House office building, where the American Consumer Institute held a discussion on moving America toward universal broadband. And we're luckily joined by the man who led that robust conversation, Jerry Ellig, who's the Senior Research Fellow at the Mercatus Center, which is with George Mason University. Jerry, we appreciate your time today.
Well, thanks for having me.
So you were in the, I guess, unenviable position of taking what four very smart people were saying about how we move toward that national broadband strategy. Are there just one or two things maybe that stuck out in your mind as a moderator that you might want to share with our viewers?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues that we talked about was how can the FCC craft a broadband plan that lets consumers make choices about speeds, about adoption, about different kinds of applications they might use, rather than setting at a plan that says this is what we've decided consumers ought to want. And it's not a trick question. I don't think it's impossible to do a plan that allows consumers to drive a lot of the choices, but I think it does require maybe a different way of thinking about this than just deciding, well, we know what consumers want, so let's go ahead and write a plan to give it to them.
Great. And would you have any perspective, one of the points that I know was raised was the amount of private capital being invested in networks. I think the data in the last 2 years, it's some $120 billion that companies have invested to expand their networks. Looking at the stimulus, which was $7.2 billion for broadband, and that includes a mapping element, will that, in your opinion, foster, bringing the public and private sectors together to, I guess, one, encourage demand in those areas that are served, but also get to that last mile and reach those unserved and underserved areas?
Well, I think it really depends on how the money in the Recovery Act is used. If the idea is that that's all going to be used to build broadband, it might not have a huge impact because it's going to take a heck of a lot more than $7 billion to build out broadband all over the country. I think it was Rob Atkinson pointed out that it's just going to take a lot more money than the government can ever put together to do this. It's going to have to be done largely with private capital. On the other hand, if a decent chunk of that money is spent on ventures that actually try to figure out, well, why aren't a lot of people online? Why aren't a lot of people using broadband? And from that we get much better information to help guide future expenditures and future decisions, then some of that money might be well invested.
Well, you moderated a very important discussion today, and we appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to us about it.